Hello. So today is similarity, but it's similar shapes. So this is the weird one where it's kind of glitchy in a lot of classes, so I wanted to make a video over it. Okay, so this was your warm-up. It says warm-up, write an equation and solve for the variable. So if you were to write an equation, let's see. Yeah, cool. Okay. So if you were to write an equation, you would write 120. Oh, just kidding. I guess I'm not going to write an equation. Let's try this again. So you would write 120 plus b plus b. And remember, all angles of a triangle add up to 180. Now, the weird part about this is that, it's not going to show that. The weird part sometimes is that we don't see it that way. So sometimes they'll actually have 120 plus 2b equals 180 because there's two of them. We know in an isosceles triangle that two angles are going to be equal. So once we have this equation, then we can go ahead and subtract the angle that we do know. So we do 180 minus 120, which equals 60 degrees. Now the 60 degrees is going to have to be able to be split between the two b's. So we would literally take this 60 degrees and divide it by 2 to equal 30. And when I look at this, I sit there and I ask myself, okay, well, does that actually work? Well, yes, because if I add 30 plus 30, I get 60, and 60 plus 120 gets me 180. So I'm okay on that one. Okay, now, similar shapes. Big things about similar shapes. 3 things. They're the same shape, but they're different sizes. If they were the same shape and the same size, then they would literally be the exact same triangle. But we're talking about similar triangles. Corresponding angles are congruent. That word congruent is just another word for the same or equal. They are the same. So if you notice in these two triangles, angle Y is the same here. So if this was 30 degrees over here, well, it wouldn't be 30. It would probably be 80. If this was 80 degrees over here, it would also be 80 degrees over here. If this one was 40 degrees over here, it would also be 40 degrees over here. If this one was, let's see, what did I do? I did 80, I did 40, so that's 120. So then if I did 60 degrees here, it would be 60 degrees over here. Okay, so the angles are exactly the same, okay? Corresponding sides are proportional, so if you'll notice right here, we say side A right here is gonna be proportional to side P. So A goes with P, side B goes with side Q, and side C goes with side R. Now, a lot of times the way that I write this, I don't typically write it like number 1. I typically write it method 2, which is I take the small side, which would be 5. So I do usually like either small to big or big to small. It doesn't really matter. But in this case, we're going to do small to big. So small side is 5. Big side is X because they go together. Small side is 3. Big side is 15. And once you've got your proportion set up, then you would just cross multiply and you would divide and you could find what X would be over here. 15 times 5 is, I think, 75. Let me just make sure. Yes, 75. And then you would do 75 divided by 3, which would get me 25. And you can actually see if this is true because 5 times 5 gets me 25 and 3 times 5 gets me 15. So that is proportional. So in these two questions, this one says, are the rectangles similar? So you would actually set it up as a proportion. So I like to do like small to big. That's what I told you guys I like to do, and it's true. So small side 10, big side it would go to 15. And then small side 16 would go to 24. And then you would literally just use your butterfly method and multiply. And if they're similar, then they should be proportional, which means that these should be equal. So 15 times 16 gets me 240. And 10 times 24 also gets me 240. So yes, these are equivalent, which they're proportional, which means they are similar. Whoop. I like this pencil in the middle that I did. It's fun. Okay, so then this one over here is a little bit different. It's asking what does AB equal? So this is the one we're looking for. If you notice, there's actually a lot more information that we don't need. I like to go with my easier numbers. So I'm going to get rid of 84, which is the slant, and I'm also going to get rid of 14, which is also the slant. And then I'm going to go ahead and do small to big. My small side 8 is going to go with my small side 48 because those are the same types of sides. They correspond is what we call. And then my small side 12. And then my box or my X, whatever you want to put on there. Right there is what I'm looking for. Now, you can cross multiply 48 times 12 and divide by 8. That's totally fine. But there is also this relationship here, which is the same as here because they're similar. So 8 times 6 would get me 48. And you can do the same thing here and do 12 times 6, which would get me 72. Because remember, these are in a relationship with each other. So it can go this way or it can go this way. And if you weren't sure, that's okay too. You would just cross multiply and then divide. Okay, next question. This is the weird one. I like it, but it is weird. This one is going to be your triangles. So triangle ABC is similar to triangle ADE. Okay, so what that means is that I'm going to do small to big. My small 7 goes with my big X. And my small 7 over here, oh, look, that's the same, goes with my X. I'm sorry, just kidding. That's not true. So we know that side is. The thing is, that side is AD over here. It's that big one. And this is the part where a lot of people make a mistake. It is this 7 plus the 5 because we want the whole line right here. So 7 plus 5 is 12. And since these are the same numbers on top, they have to be the same numbers on the bottom. So X would actually be 12. The big thing here is just to remember that you'd have to do 7 plus 5. Okay, next, this one is a little bit complicated. The big thing here is if you have answer choices, plug in your answer choices to X and then set up your proportion to see which one's proportional. You do see that the 3 times 2 would get me 6. So it would have to be X times 2 to go to the big one right here, okay? And so when we set up our proportion, it would be 3 to 6, and then X plus 4. Now, since we know it has to multiply by 2, that would mean that 2 x's has to equal X plus 4. If I were to solve this equation, I would take away X from one side, which would end up with X, and the only thing on the other side is 4. So X would be 4. This next one, the quadrilaterals are similar, so there's a bunch of stuff that we can get rid of. I like to use my easier numbers. I'm looking for M, so I'm going to get rid of these numbers here. So really all I need is M over 12 is equal to 15 over 10. and then we would cross multiply, and then we would divide. When I do 15 times 12, so that's the first one, you have to do 15 times 12, and I would get 180, and then 180 divided by 10 gets me 18. So my M would be 18. This next piece, if it gives you something like this, once again, just set them up. We know that the stick figure casts a shadow, so we'll do height over shadow. Sorry, it's really hard to write on here. Now I know why you guys want whiteboards all the time. So 1.5, this stick figure is 1.5, and the shadow is 2 meters. The nearby fake palm tree casts the shadow of 3.2, so the shadow would be on the bottom because that's what I said. And then you would cross multiply and you would divide. So 1.5 times 3.2 gets me 4.8. And then I would divide by 2, which would get me 2.4. Last one, your angles that are congruent. So ACB is congruent to DFE. Then it would also be true that BAC, so BAC is equivalent to EDF, and congruent. And then we could also say ABC is congruent to DEF. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, it glitched. And then lastly, if two shapes are congruent, have congruent sides, and they have congruent angles, would they be considered similar? No, because two shapes will not have congruent sides. That would mean they'd actually be the exact same shape, and we have to have the same shape and different sizes. These would be the same size. Here are your two IXL codes. I would like for you to practice them up to a 70 or 80 so that you feel comfortable. Your IXL code from Monday, which was, I believe it was JFJ. Now I don't trust myself. I believe it was JFJ. But you needed to have JFJ. You needed to have a score of 70 on your IXL code. That is for a grade. But not only that, we are going to do a Kahoot on Friday, and that will also be for a grade. So please make sure you get that stuff done. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You guys are awesome. Have a great day.